This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show. Thank you for joining me today on the show. Today's topic is a food minimalist versus intermediate fasting. Both of them restrict the food we're eating, but what is the difference and why choose one over the other? Or do we even want to restrict the food we're eating? I know some people that eat a healthy diet or a raw food diet, and their goal in life is to eat more, not less. I mean, there are many people into fitness that desire to eat more calories and to look bigger or have more so-called energy to go longer, or stimulation, however you want to look at that. But when it comes to eating less, what is the idea behind it? And is it healthy or not to eat less? And that depends on several factors. One factor it depends on is why you are doing it. Why do you desire to eat less? Is it because of your choice, or is it because you just don't have any money? But regardless of which one of those it is, you can still eat healthy when you're reducing the food you eat. As a matter of fact, studies now show, and they have shown for many years, the less we eat, the higher quality food, but the less we eat, the better off we're going to be as versus overeating or eating too much. And that's something I've been teaching about for a long time, overeating, just eating way too much and too often. So too often throughout the day and too much in our meals. And this leads to many of the diseases that many people suffer from today and many people have today. The key is not eating more, it's eating less. Now, here we come back to the question, intermediate fasting versus minimalist in food. And what is the difference? So intermediate fasting is a scheduled, designed way to eat where you're only eating a certain amount of time, or you're eliminating eating a certain amount of time. So pretty much fasting is about taking away. Now, minimalist in food is about not taking away, but it's just being smarter with what you're adding. You know, just thinking ahead. Okay, I'm a minimalist. Why are people minimalist in general? Because they, not only do they not like clutter or they don't like a lot of things, but because they want to simplify their lives. Well, minimalist in your food is simplifying your diet if you're doing it the right way. So I'm not talking about eating like something like McDonald's one time a day. I'm talking about having one fruit meal a day, or just one salad a day, or eating just twice a day. My daylight diet would be considered a minimalist diet because you're not consuming as much food as you were before, but you're not looking at taking away. Intermediate fasting, or fasting in general, is looking at taking away. That's not necessarily a negative thing, even though it sounds like it is, because you're taking away. There are great benefits to fasting in general. Intermediate fasting is wonderful, but I'd like to refer to it as minimalist eating, and with the idea of voluntary simplicity in your diet. And when you do that, it really does not only is it healthier, but it really does help answer a lot of issues. Like many people that start eating a raw food diet or a vegetarian diet, right away they say, well, it's too much money to eat this way. Well, of course, if you're eating a lot of food, it's going to be a lot of money. But when you're eating less, you're spending less money on food. I always tell people that I like to eat a lot. They say, oh, I just love to eat. I say, well, if you eat less, you live longer and you get to eat more. You know, it's the same thing with food. You know, if you eat less, you're saving more money. You're having less time in the kitchen. You're saving more time. You'll have time to make the food you want. And you'll have money to get the food you need, the high quality food. So, you know, being a food minimalist actually helps you plan for the future better. Now, being a intermediate fast, or somebody's doing intermediate fast, it can be used to an advantage if you're doing it to heal from some condition, or you just don't like to eat, which there aren't many people out there that just don't like to eat. But minimalist food is the way to go, folks, and just try it. It's like the difference between being homeless because you don't have a choice, or something called voluntary simplicity. Big difference. And I'm choosing to be a minimalist in my food and my diet. On the daylight diet, choosing to eat 2 times a day for the most part, and not eating late at night. And that's where it started for me. It started to getting out of the habit of eating late at night when it was dark outside. And once you do that, and it's much easier in the summer to do that than the winter, because the summertime the days are so much longer. But once you get out of the habit of eating when most people eat, and that is eating when it's dark outside, it's very easy to become a food minimalist, or even to do intermediate fasting. So as I suggest in my book, The Daylight Diet, eating 2 times a day at the right times. Now, I've been experimenting with eating 1 time a day, but I fall back into the trap of, if you go the whole day without eating and then you try to eat later in the day, and that meal is bigger than it should be, you end up eating at nighttime. Going back to the main principle of the daylight diet, of not eating at nighttime, is if you eat enough during the day, you're not going to desire food at nighttime. And from my experience, if you eat good, high-quality meals and you eat 2 of them at the right times, mid-morning and then mid-afternoon, you're not looking for food at nighttime, especially if it's a good quality food. And there's so many benefits to being a food minimalist that outweigh overeating. And even from an exercise standpoint or a fitness standpoint, a lot of people in the gym, they want to eat more just to be bigger. And they're just asking for problems. They're asking for trouble. We do not need to overeat to fit in society, because society today is just made up of sick people who are diseased, looking to get rid of their diseases and looking to just take medication on top of their overeating. No, becoming a food minimalist can help you reduce all that. In the raw food movement, there's some things. I just saw something called the Raw Fruit Festival, and there's all these other fruit events coming up, or all these eating events, and they're all planned around eating. Well, again, fasting is a whole nother story, because it's more like taking away. Okay, I'm taking away. I can't eat today. I can't do this. But just being a minimalist in life in general has helped me now become a food minimalist, where I'm not desiring to eat as much food as I used to consume. Far less. And I continue to work on this and experiment with this. But I find that it's something that's possible to do. For example, there's a Bible holiday coming up called Yom Kippur, where people are called to fast. So we're called not to eat. And a lot of people struggle with this because they're used to eating so much throughout the day, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a day, and through snacking and everything else, maybe up to 10 times a day. Well, if you're not fasting. If you fast once a day, that's 24 hours. You're still eating every day, right? It's only when you fast 36 hours that you're missing a whole day of not eating food, and that's where it really becomes a challenge. But to eat once a day, what kind of challenge is that? Well, it's not a challenge for a food minimalist. It's a challenge for people that are used to eating 10 times a day. And that creates an issue. It almost comes down to the idea of being an alcoholic. If you could drink 4 or 5 beers and not get drunk or even a buzz, chances are you've drinking too much alcohol in your life where you worked up that tolerance. And it's the same thing with food. If you could eat a tremendous amount of food so often and so much and not feel uncomfortable, chances are you've eaten too much food to work up to that weight, because the body has an amazing ability to adapt to its environment and its situation, but that doesn't always mean it's healthy. So I want to just bring on the idea and let people know it's not about fasting. I'm not telling you to stop eating. I'm just telling you to consider being a food minimalist. And a great way to start is with step 1 of the daylight diet, which is to stop eating when it's dark outside. That's step 1. And even if you have to eat a lot during the daytime, so you're not in the habit of eating at nighttime, that's fine. That's stage 1 of daylight diet. That's a great place to start. But then eventually you get to a place where you become a food minimalist. Then you can have enough money to get the food you want, the high quality food you want, and you're not spending all day in the kitchen because you're not eating all day, and it definitely frees you up to do much more. Now there are a lot of people saying they don't have a lot of energy when they eat, and they don't have enough time to do things when they eat, and I just say to people, look, it's not a challenge when you do things the way we were designed. Our stomach is supposed to be the size of our fist, and our body has an amazing power to adapt. And just like we've adapted to eating so much, we can adapt to eat so little. And I've learned this from people that do fasting on an intermediate level, which basically means often or weekly. Weekly fasting is intermediate fasting. Whether that means not eating for a 24-hour period or 36-hour period a week, or whether that means eating just once a day, it's intermediate fasting. But minimalist, the idea of minimalist in reducing things in our life so we could have more, not so we could have less. More time, more freedom, more money, I guess less clutter, is a great concept. So voluntary simplicity over being homeless. Voluntary simplicity and minimalism over being stuck in a rut and thinking you don't have a choice, because you do have a choice, and it's not a lot of money to eat healthy. It doesn't have to be if you do this the right way, and there's great deals on there and other ways to be minimalist and other ways to get great food at a great cost. But remember, the higher quality the food, the better off you're going to do at this. If you continue to eat low quality food, no matter how much you eat, you're going to continue to crave food because your body desires to eat certain food nutrients for its cells. So you got to make sure you're eating the right quality of food. And you can get that sometimes behind the store, then more in the store. So I'm going to do another video about how to get good quality food for free in the near future. But just start getting in the concept of the mind of thinking of a minimalist lifestyle, or minimalist thinking, or not, again, taking away or fasting, but just in abundance. It's about abundance and making your life more abundant through having less. Okay, so some of you that are doing that, that'll make a lot of sense. For other of you, that'll be very confusing, but having abundance through having less is a great concept, and it's a great way to go. And there's a wonderful book out by a lady called the Peace Pilgrim, who walked all across the United States spreading the word of peace. And she lived this example of having so little and having so much. And it's such a great feeling when you could do that. And just being able to survive with less and not have to fear how much you need or how much the world needs and all this stuff. So I just want to throw that out there today. And I want your comments and suggestions. Put them below the video, what you think about these things. I don't hear anyone else talking about this. I haven't heard anyone talk about the concept. I'm not saying it's not out there. Maybe it is, and maybe some of you will be emailing me that it's out there. But I haven't heard anyone talking about the concept of food minimalism. They call it fasting, but it's, I think, a different thing. And so I'll say intermediate fasting versus food minimalist. Which one do you choose to be, or do you choose to be one at all? And or do you like to be a overeater versus a, I don't know what you want to call it, an abundant eater? But either way, you gotta understand, we can't just do what feels good to us, because our body has an amazing power to adapt. We also have to do what makes sense and what's good for the body. And what's better for the body is to eat less, not more, if you're eating good quality food. So, thank you for checking me out today. Put your comments and questions below the video. Until then, have a great day and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.